Welcome all to tonight's broadcast of Lemoyne Radio Theater, bringing you the second episode of The Marlboro Story, how a hardy little peninsula looked after itself. At the conclusion of episode 1, we left you, our listeners, in the year 1923. The patience of many Marlboro citizens was wearing thin as the town of Hancock continued to ignore the declining condition of Marlboro's roads, schoolhouse, and other town services. Many Marlboro residents felt that the east side of the Skillings River benefited far more from their tax payments than did Marlboro. As the years passed, support grew in both Marlboro and Lemoyne for the cause of separation from Hancock and annexation to Lemoyne. And now for the second episode of The Marlboro Story, Skullduggery on the Skillings.
We rejoin the Marlboro story 4 years later in May of 1927. J. Sherman Douglas, past Lemoyne selectman and now a senator representing Hancock County, has spearheaded the effort to put a bill before the Maine legislature permitting Marlboro to leave Hancock and join Lemoyne. Listen now as Senator Douglas reports some disheartening news from Augusta to Marlboro leader Lyle L. Brown.
It's a great disappointment, Brown. There's no denying it. After years of discussion in town, a bill finally goes to the legislature to add Marlboro to Lemoyne, and then it had to be withdrawn.
Couldn't agree with you more, Sherm. What the devil happened?
Opposition from Hancock. They raised such a stink that most legislatures just wanted to duck it. In the end, the excuse was that Lemoyne should have to pay Hancock for taking a part of their town away. They want Lemoyne to pay off some of their debt on the Sullivan Bridge.
I'm not sure how fair that is. How much benefit does Marlboro get from that bridge way over on the other side of Hancock?
They complained that the bill included no reimbursement to Hancock for any costs at all. They'd lose land and taxes and get nothing in return. That didn't sit well with members of the Committee on Towns. Don't worry. We'll keep working on it and try again in the next term.
I sure hope so. I've got people stopping by my dooryard nearly every day asking about it. Every muddy day this spring, the roads made it near impossible to travel out of Marlboro without worrying if you could get home the same day.
Resistance to a bill of separation, however, proved deeply rooted over the next 2 years. Tensions between Marlboro and the rest of Hancock grew, particularly as Hancock leaders realized that Lemoyne, in the person of Senator Douglas, was supporting separation. Now, with the 1929 legislative season about to open in February, Senator Douglas meets with Lemoyne selectman Dewey Smith at the Lemoyne Town Hall, then located at Lemoyne Corner.
So, Sherm, fill us in on that Marlboro bill. How's it going in Augusta?
Well, I've submitted it on behalf of our good neighbors in Marlboro, and there's support for it over in Hancock, too. C.B. Young is behind it, and you know people really respect him.
What are its chances?
Pretty good, I think. We set it up so, once the legislature passes it, both towns need to ratify it so everybody who wants to will have a voice.
But won't that open up the old barn door for Ivory Foss and the people he's got riled up over to Hancock? Foss is still first selectman, and he's got a lot of folks under his thumb. Lemoyne could approve it, but the Crabtree Neck folks could deep six it. Where does that leave Marlboro?
Got a good point there, Dewey. But I've talked to my colleagues in the Senate, and they think we need to give the choice to both towns. If we don't, I'm afraid it won't pass.
I hear from C.B. Young over to Hancock that Foss and that crew are ready to travel to Augusta, like they did in 27, to pressure folks to their way of thinking. Pretty sure they can defeat this as long as Hancock voters get a chance to vote on it. I'm wondering, whose arms can we twist on this? I mean, I'm willing to give up Lemoyne's voting on it if Hancock doesn't get to vote on it either.
Well, I'm headed back over on Monday next. I'll see what I can do.
Douglas's efforts in Augusta proved successful at bringing the bill of separation to a vote in the House and the Senate. After the Senate's approval, Senator Douglas places a telephone call to Lyle Brown in Marlboro.
Hello? Oh, yes, operator. I will take a call from Senator Douglas. Hello, Sherman. Are you there?
Yes. Hello, Lyle. Just came from the Senate, and the Maine legislature has passed the bill to give you all a way to separate from Hancock.
Oh, my gosh, that's fabulous.
It took a lot, but we finally worked out a deal. Jumpin' Jehoshaphat, why do so many people over here in Augusta want to meddle in our affairs? First, the Senate approved my bill, but the House wanted to amend it. Then the Senate didn't like the House amendment. Didn't help at all that Ivory Foss and Henry Johnson trekked over here to testify against it.
So, Sherm, tell me, what's the upshot?
They dropped the requirement that both towns had to vote to ratify the plan. Instead, they put in that Marlboro voters will vote yea or nay on it. The town is to set up a special town meeting this coming August. And get this, Lyle, all Marlboro property owners, year-round and summer, are eligible to vote.
Good golly, I think that's good news for us. We've got a pretty good handle on who's behind the plan and who's not. And I think the separationists outnumber the anti-separationists.
I sure hope so, Lyle. There'll be a lot of campaigning, I'm sure. Looks like it'll be a hot summer in Marlboro in more ways than one.
Well, it don't bother me none. I'm glad folks here get a say in the matter. I don't mind saying I've got a strong sense of the vote, and it will go our way with several votes to spare. We'll just have to make sure we all get over to Town Hall for the vote.
I'll be home Wednesday, Lyle, and I'll phone you up again then. Bye now.
But some of those in Hancock were of a different and more devious mind. First Selectman Ivory Foss met with others who were not happy to lose Marlboro's valuable property from the Hancock tax rolls. Listen in now in late April 1929 as Foss huddles with Second Selectman Henry Johnson to devise a plan that might be more than just a harmless shenanigan.
So, the legislature won't give us in Hancock the right to vote on this matter except those over to Marlboro? All Hancock voters should get to vote. This is a damn disgrace. I've a mind to go back to Augusta and tell 'em off myself.
Anyway, Ivory, it's been done after more than 2 years of jarring about it. So I don't think the legislature will change it no matter how unfair it is to us.
I tell you, Johnson, the whole town suffers. Property taxes are lost. Hancock will have fewer people to do the town's business. There's got to be a way to defeat this outrageous proposal.
I don't see any way to do that except to win the special election in August. How do you think that stands? I know that Shirley Hodgkins over to Marlboro supports us, and he says others do too, though there's plenty of folks who want to go with Lemoyne. He thinks it'll be real close.
They think it'll be all sweet milk and honey in Lemoyne. If they go, they'll all be begging us to take 'em back in a few years.
We'll have to go over to the west side and try to reason with people. I'm wondering, is there any way we could put pressure on those Marlboro folks to sway the election our way?
Crabtree says he talked to one fella that says Lyle Brown thought the separators would win by 2 to 5 votes.
So there you are. You only have to change 2 or 3 votes and you're on the winning side.
Yeah, but we don't really know who stands where. Plain old persuasion just won't do. We need a plan that works for sure. How about we get a bunch of folks from our side of the Skillins to buy land in Marlboro before the election? As landowners, they'll have the right to vote in a special election. If we sell enough lots, we can guarantee that Marlboro remains ours.
Gory, Ivory, is that legal? And how are you going to find that much land to buy and get it all done in such a short time? We've only got a month until the vote.
Well, I asked the town attorney if there is any minimum acreage you have to own to vote in this darn fool election, and he said no. It just says a property owner as of the date of the special town meeting. So here's what I'm thinking. We get one parcel of land, but buy a dozen more tiny parcels. Then we sell each one to folks we can trust. So we can, say, get 15 or 16 more votes for our side.
Sounds like it'll work, but is that really fair?
It's a darn sight more fair than nobody from Crabtree Neck getting to vote at all. Let's get moving here, Henry. You get Shirley Hodgkins to sell us a 1/4 acre. I'll find folks to buy a share and get the town attorney to draw up the deeds. We'll divide that 1/4 acre into 16 parcels. We'll record the deeds just before the special town meeting. And I'll make sure we keep 'em under wraps so no one sees 'em before the vote.
The vote was set for Friday, August 17, at the Hancock Town House. As the day approached, anticipation mounted. Neighbors huddled with certain neighbors, but studiously avoided others. Rumors swirled that summer residents would turn the election towards separation simply to gain good roads. On Election Day, Hancock's town clerk checked the credentials of each person turning out to vote and found each one to be a Marlboro landowner. But, much to the surprise and consternation of most inhabitants of Marlboro, the separation effort failed. 22 had voted for leaving, but 33 had voted to keep Marlboro in Hancock. Early the next morning finds Lyle Brown and Sherm Douglas conferring earnestly on the porch of the Shore Acres Hotel.
Good gravy, Lyle. So the election yesterday lost by 11 votes? How did that happen?
I'm not certain, but I've got a pretty good idea. Bogus voters. There were more votes than we figured on. 57 in total. There aren't that many houses in Marlboro. And it seemed like all the extra votes were against separation.
God darn it. That's precisely what's his name? Third selectman from Hancock, Herman Brenton, said would happen. Remember? He told us a month ago that the election could be controlled by buying land in Marlboro, and then landowners from any part of Hancock could vote.
We can't let them pull this one over on us. It's got to be illegal to rig an election like this. And I heard the town clerk wouldn't allow some pro-separatist voters to register by the August 16th deadline. Said they were too late.
You're right on that, Brown. What do you say we ask C.B. Young to look at the tax records and voter list to show us just who voted and where they live?
I'm all in with you on that, Sherm. We've got to get to the bottom of this. And if what's happened is what we think's happened, we've got to take this to court. Young will surely help us. As a former select man, he'll know what was proper and what wasn't.
And I'd be more than happy to bring the matter up in the legislature, Lyle. Once these dirty tricks get exposed, I'm sure the House and Senate will look more kindly on a new bill to send Marlboro over to us here in Lemoyne.
Then we've got a plan. I'll talk to C.B. Young tonight and let you know.
Lyle Brown's phone call to C.B. Young that evening found Young sitting at his kitchen table writing a letter of protest to the Ellsworth American. His letter to the editor appeared just 3 days later in the August 21 edition of the paper.
Here's my letter. I entitled it, That Marlboro Election, dated Hancock, August 19, 1929. Dear Editor American, what appears to be the most atrocious attempt to thwart and control the results of a vote to keep Marlboro in the town of Hancock was perpetrated at a special election held in the townhouse in Hancock, Saturday, August 17. But the election fell prey to the worst kind of skullduggery. A parcel of land, 1 acre more or less, was purchased of Shirley Hodgkins in Marlboro, the latter part of March, by E. Abbott of Hancock, and divided in ownership among 18 owners. and the voting list padded with 15 of these names, including the first and second selectmen, F.E. Milliken and others, whose post office address is Mount Desert Ferry in Hancock. The result of the vote, as announced by I.H. Foss, chairman of the selectmen, was total vote 57, defective votes 2, yes votes 22, no votes 33, of which 16 were challenged, and a final protest made at the locality of the election. Where is Marlboro? Let Tammany Hall answer. C.B. Young.
In short order, a group of Hancock citizens filed a lawsuit against the town, challenging the legality of the vote and calling for justice to be served on Selectmen Ivory Foss and Henry Johnson. The case was brought to a hearing in Hancock County Courthouse on February 18, 1930. The presiding judge, Charles J. Dunn, however, concluded that the Board of Selectmen had acted legally in allowing the last-minute landowners to vote. It was another crushing defeat for the separationists in what was now widely known as the Battle of Marlboro. 10 days later, C.B. Young happens across Selectman Ivory Foss on the steps of the Hancock Town Hall.
So, Foss, you've managed to squeak by the Attorney General's hearing. How do you do it? You're leaving some mighty upset people in your wake, you know.
Come, Young. Judge Dunn's verdict that we, the Hancock Selectmen, acted properly was fair and square. We made our case. Means Attorney General Robinson made the case for your side. 400 people were at the Hancock County Courthouse to witness it all.
You've got to admit, Foss, that many of those 400 people from Hancock, Marlboro, and Lemoyne were in favor of separation. It'll be only a matter of time before another bill is submitted to the legislature.
Maybe so, but we're not going to let Marlboro go without compensation to the town of Hancock. We're not going to let our neighbors down. We're going to fight this, Young. You know it.
You'll find, Foss, that you can't intimidate the good folks who want to see justice done. You can't try to throw them out of a selectmen's meeting the way you tried with me last winter. There's going to be an election this fall, and our representatives in Augusta will get this bill passed.
Tempers ran hot through the spring. Young's articles to the American exposed the details of Foss's underhanded plot. Public opinion seemed to be trending in Marlboro's favor. In late April, a letter to the American from an anonymous writer reasoned that this battle simply could not be sustained. The self-described neutral citizen wrote,
"It is true, indeed, we have Marlboro, but for how long? No one is foolish enough to think that with so much at stake, Marlboro will not try again, and Hancock will be compelled to defend. A few more victories like the last would ruin Hancock. So a murmur is heard. Would it not be well to let them go, as they are sure to win in the end? We can't pay taxes to work out private spite."
With the coming of fall, the Marlboro forces again faced the daunting task of convincing the far-off Maine legislature that they rightly belonged with Lemoyne. Would they need to compensate Hancock for their schoolhouse? Would Hancock need to compensate them for road repairs done by Marlboro? Would the legislature look at the map and see that Marlboro is a part of the Lemoyne Peninsula? We hope you'll join us next time for the concluding episode of the Marlboro story. Readers for episode 2 were Fred Stocking as Representative J. Sherman Douglas, Merle Bragdon as Lyle L. Brown, Marlboro leader, Don Bamman as Lemoyne Selectman Dewey Smith, Brent Hutchins as Ivory Foss, Hancock First Selectman, Tom St. Clair as Henry Johnson, Hancock's Second Selectman, Robin Vasey as C.B. Young, Ann Stocking as a neutral citizen. The narrator for this episode has been Gordon Donaldson. And I am Robin Vasey, your host for this episode of the Marlboro story. I invite you to tune in to episode 3, Peace Comes to to the peninsula, next time on Lemoyne Radio Theater. For more information about Lemoyne Radio Theater productions, visit the Lemoyne Town website as lemoyne-maine.gov or the Lemoyne 150 Facebook page. The Marlboro story was written by Gordon Donaldson and Fred Stocking. Lemoyne Radio Theater is a collaboration among Lemoyne 150, Lemoyne Community Arts, and the Lemoyne Technology Committee.